All right, let's get all of our Facebook friends, family, folks, fiends, question mark, on up in here. Spinning wheels, 1 and 2. Let it breathe for a second. And let's go. All right, welcome in, welcome in. It is Tuesday, September 27th. Man, that doesn't feel right to say. What a we're almost closing in on 2023, and 3 weeks of the season are already over. It's Tuesday night. Time for Building the Broncos. I am Nick Kendell, and joined by, as always, on these Tuesday evening live streams over at Mile High Huddle, Carl Dumler. Welcome back, Carl. I had Scott rejoin me this morning, and I did never miss you in the show, but glad to see that you made it home back from the fun and the celebration that was Sunday Night Football, the Denver Broncos victory over the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I had someone in the comments last week. They said, Carl, you better be cheering really loud at this game. I still don't have a voice 2 days later. Yeah. So I'm telling you, I was yelling, I was stomping the feet. That stadium was shaking. It was a lot of fun to be a part of that. And of course, getting that Bronco victory, coming back like that, just a lot of fun. And unfortunately, my weekend kind of ended on a sour note. Someone decided to cut off my catalytic converter, but I'm not going to let that ruin my mood. Bronco victory Tuesday, I guess we'll call it. And just getting excited to talk to all of you about the game, and got to go back and watch it now from, the broadcast kind of point of view and all 22 and all that. And it just all the more just makes me excited about this team and where they could be going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's great to have you back. Sorry to hear about your catalytic converter, but maybe the chat will help chip away at some of that tonight on tonight's show. Yeah, no, what a game to see at, man. I wasn't sure if it was a Big Ten West, Iowa, Wisconsin going on there, or the AFC, NFC, Broncos versus 49ers. But I think it was one of the reporters was like, did that game remind you of anything? Talking to Josie Jules, like, yep, Iowa, Wisconsin, 2011 or something. Just absolute slugfest. Couple good defenses, couple questionable offenses right now, but a lot of season to go. Let's say hello to some folks in the chat. Not questionable. Diamond Rattler coming here saying, boom, let's go. Good to see you, Diamond, flexing on us. We also got Dylan Von Arks in the house saying, sup, Broncos country. Make sure you guys hit that like button on the way in and subscribe if you haven't already. Always good to see you, Dylan. We got Mario Lewis saying Denver, hashtag #1 with the hearts and the fist pump there. Absolutely, Denver tied for first in the AFC West. So we'll get into that. We got William Catalano saying Eli Manning was terrible his last 4 to 5 years. How many picks did he throw? Yeah, he was bad. I still like Eli. I think it was just a clever quip, but we'll get into it. I think he was joking around though. Yeah. We got a question coming in. Say Andy Dragon saying, what did Chad Powers say? Chad Powers would take Penn State to national title, no doubt. Kevin Gray coming in here saying, hey, Nick and Carl, I don't really know what to think about this evening, Broncos country, Denver Broncos for life. Well, Kevin, thank you for joining us today. Kathy Lund's in the house. Good evening, fan. Hoping everyone is doing well tonight. Doing pretty well. I'm starting to get pretty irritated about the smoke out here in the Pacific Northwest, but it's been 3 weeks of it now, but is what it is. We got caffeine coming in with the horses, 3 of them. Hopefully we can add a 4th one here for a symbolic 4th trophy coming in this year. And we got Jay Kozad saying Russell hasn't set the world on fire so far from it. But a lot of the shade he gets is from former players, and Eastern media is just out of jealousy. What do you think about this, Carl? The shade from former teammates and Eastern media outlets.
So he is a little bit of a different personality than a lot of other guys in the NFL. He's very professional, very he's out there selling himself. Peyton did a lot of that too. And there's nothing wrong with that. You got your opportunity, go do it. I think it rubs some guys the wrong way because he does get a lot of attention. Everybody's talking about him. He's got, of course, the famous wife on top of that makes everything. And so I think some guys get a little bit of jealousy going towards him. I agree with that. And then the Eastern media, yeah, they don't like to talk about the West Coast teams other than the LA teams. And so Russ has a lot of things kind of going against him, and he's brought some of it on himself. I think he knows that this is kind of what happens with his kind of personality. People they're weirded out by it sometimes. I like it. I think it's kind of funny at times. And as long as the team is winning games, I'm not going to find it to be too bad. Now, if they start losing games and he's still going and doing all these things, then yeah, he should get a lot of this shade. But former players, I'm not going to read too much into it. I think they just, I don't know. They've got some problems out there. Seattle, they had a lot of big personalities. Yeah. And those big personalities sometimes just don't know when to keep their mouth shut.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's part of the 24-hour news cycle. Everybody has access to social media. So a lot of people, just spout off. I'm sure if you comb through every single thing that you and I have ever said, there'd be some stupid looking shade from us as well. But we don't have the platform, the reach, or the value of a lot of those guys as well. You do, Carl. I don't. But we got Miguel Santos-Steven coming and talking about value here, saying, "Sup, fellas? Are the Broncos really bad as the media makes them out? They're 2-1 right now, and I don't know what media you're saying is making them out to be bad. The offense has been disappointing, no doubt, but right now they are 2-1, tied for first place. And the real answer here, it's going to be a disappointing one. Not enough games yet to really have an idea of who they are, because still ironing some things out, but we don't know how good the opponents we've gone up against are either. So we'll see. More games, and we'll start to figure out here. You got some tougher games for the next 3 games. I mean, you could really start to, they kind of feel more middle of the pack teams in the Raiders, the Colts, and the injured beyond belief Chargers. I think of the next 3 opponents. Broncos, you'll start to get an idea of who this team is over the next 3 weeks.
Yeah. Well, and this week, and Dave, appreciate that 80-week streak, saying, I can't see what those are. To Nick and
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Cheers to you too, Dave. Did I mention I bet the Broncos and the under? Hey, you're riding high then. You're going to do pretty well, but betting the under this year. And the Broncos they've hit the under a lot for like the last 6-7 years because offense has been terrible and defense has been great. And a lot of teams, they've scored a lot lower points because they haven't tried to go run up the score against the Broncos. They don't want to turn the ball over. But we got Addison coming in here as well with the super chat. Thank you so much. Saying, in my opinion, Broncos need to check into OBJ outside of Sutton. We don't have much stepping up. Judy is looking like he'll never be more than a number 3 wide receiver.
If OBJ was healthy, I think that'd be the case, but it doesn't seem like Odell Beckham Jr. and Denver have much mutual interest. He seems to be more interested in the Rams, Buffalo, because him and Von Miller are, homies. And also seems like Tampa Bay is another option as well. So doesn't seem like Denver is an option right now. I'm not sure what the extent is of the injury, how long away he is, what he's going to be like when he comes back. He was killing it in the Super Bowl before he got injured, which is obviously too bad for him. But I mean, I don't know how much it would hurt to call in the least and kind of figure out what's going on with the camp there, because it's not just, we're talking about Jerry Jeudy here. And I'm not ready to say I'm harsh on Jerry Jeudy because he's a first round pick and you passed on some good players to take him. But saying he'll never be more than a wide receiver 3, you need 3 or 4 good wide receivers right now. And the Broncos maybe have 1.5 right now. Cause I mean, if you put KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy together, maybe you have half of a good receiver given the injuries and whatnot. Cortland Sutton's the one who's putting the team on his back. So maybe something I would be interested in. I think it's a little bit in fantasy land though, unfortunately.
Yeah. And OBJ, the problem is I don't know how much immediate impact you're getting from him. Not only does he have to learn the offense, but we don't know how healthy he is.
The injury,
that injury. Yeah. It might be week 12, 13 before he starts making any kind of real impact. And the Broncos need something more immediate. And I think it's just part of it's the Broncos got to get better on just everybody being on the same page. Like you're seeing some guys run the wrong routes. And this is what happens when you got some younger guys coming in. This whole system, there's so many option routes that go be a part of this, depending on what the defense is going to do. And this is why it takes so much time to get guys on the same page. You can tell Russell Wilson doesn't feel very comfortable back there right now with everything that's going on, of everything that he's reading. The wide receivers, other than Sutton, you can tell sometimes they just don't feel comfortable in what they're doing. And this is, I think, why you're seeing a lot of these drops too. Because if you're thinking through everything you're doing and then all of a sudden here's the ball coming right at you, it just, when you have to think so much more, the catch gets literally it gets dropped. And so there's just so many things that I think as the season goes on, progresses here, you're going to start seeing it get cleaned up and this offense is going to start looking at least decent. I don't know if they'll be a top 10 offense this year, but with this defense, I don't think you need to be a top 10 offense to make the playoffs. Like you said, Chargers are banged up. Raiders looking like they're worse than a lot of people thought they'd be. And, I think there's some other AFC teams that have been dropping down that you didn't expect. So I think the Broncos stand still a good chance, even with, like I said, maybe an average to just above average offense.
Yeah, they got to protect the football as well, and the special teams got to keep playing like they did last week.
Yep.
If that's going to be the case in the NFL, some Big Ten West football, if you will. God, can't escape. Gary Leeds Palmer coming in saying, "Hey Nick, Carl, and Scott. That's why I don't pay attention to the celebrities and the media darlings. Go Broncos. There are some good ones out there, but there's a lot of hot air as well, and that's the thing too. That's why I have like sympathy, I guess, for somebody like Colin Coward or those pardon, not what is it? Pardon the interruption, the old show on ESPN where they have to
PTI.
talk about,
Yep.
PTI. They have to talk about, 20 different topics in 60 seconds each. And it's like, how the hell can you have any sort of, you have like an inch of knowledge that's a mile wide versus where we're in here covering the Broncos. We're an inch wide, but a mile deep. So definitely. And, sometimes because of the Broncos stuff, you do want to listen to some of the national media too, because sometimes it can be a little bit too close. Can't see the forest through the trees.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I'll just speak for myself there. I won't put it on anybody else covering the Broncos, but that seems to be just the honest reality of it. But definitely appreciate you riding with us, GLP. And sorry, I missed you this week out there, but I bet you,
Yeah.
Carl, I know Scott mentioned meeting you as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, shout out to you, Gary. It's great talking with you, man.
Yeah.
And it's always great to put that face. I can see a little picture, but to actually have a face to a person, it's a huge help. And so Phil coming in as well saying, good evening, Nick, Carl, and Scott. Is Turner available this week? Hashtag Go Broncos, hashtag MHH for life. It sounds like they're really slow playing this. And I think part of it is Fleming he's been decent. He hasn't been great, but he's been decent. And so I think they're not really rushing Turner more than they have to. I think at the beginning of the season, they're going, oh my gosh, this right tackle position looks terrible. What are we going to do? Then Fleming has a couple good games. Now they're kind of going, okay, let's give him his time. Let's see what we can do. And, maybe they don't need him at that right tackle position. Maybe he does get moved to one of the guard spots and you can feel comfortable about that. That's the nice thing with having a Turner who has played a lot of different positions in this style of offense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And George Payton obviously gets a lot of credit for the 2021 draft. Bringing in Russell Wilson should be getting a lot of credit for what Randy Gregory has done so far, getting him in here. But the fact that Billy Turner and Tom Compton are both dealing with injuries that were known when they were signed, and I don't think the Tom Compton one was aggravated in the offseason. I think it was something they knew about. If you can correct me if I'm wrong, chat. But those two right now looking a little bit concerning in the injury front, though you really need those guys back because I don't think the offensive line has been all that good. Obviously, things are issues beyond just the offensive line, but the San Francisco 49ers beat them up and not getting a lot of holes up front. Addison Rychek coming in 199 saying also we might need to draft a wide receiver high next draft. I mean, a lot of pushback and no name specifically, but a lot of pushback in here for talking about the draft last cycle where it's like, day 2, Broncos maybe need to look at wide receiver just because you can never, it's like cornerback, you need to run 4 deep on those guys because if you get injured, you're pretty screwed. That's a rotational position in today's NFL as much as anything. So definitely wide receiver is very high on the pecking order next draft right now. Maybe if, the offense starts to click a little bit better, you have a little bit of Russell Wilson persuasion. Maybe you can bring in a vet in here because he wants to come in rather than play with Daniel Jones or something, that kind of thing. But wide receiver right now looks like a big need, especially because Judy hasn't stepped up as a first round pick caliber wide receiver, in my opinion. And KJ Hamler, I mean, God, hoping for him to get healthy, but just does not look like a dynamic player right now.
Right.
Andrew Baker coming in. Sup, Nick, Carl, and Scott and fam. Defense has been good. Hopefully the offense will catch up, but we can't get much worse from here. Only up. You say that, Andrew, but there can be painful offenses out there.
Yeah, we got Naj coming in here. Here's another guy. Great meeting you, and says it in comments. Hey, brothers, Carl. Great meeting you this weekend, my man. Wish we could have hung out longer. What a game, bros. Love Wilson's fourth quarter calm and execution. Raiders have a must-win game. Thoughts on best way to attack them? Yeah, Raiders, it doesn't get much more desperate than being 0-3. I mean, you go 0-4. I'm not sure. Has there ever been a team that's made the playoffs after starting 0-4?
I'll look it up while you.
Okay, you do that. It's great to see Wilson do that fourth quarter magic, and I'm kind of hoping they turn him a little bit more loose. He's really worked hard to try to play within the scope of the play, and that's just not his game. So I need to see the Broncos say, hey, take off some runs, make the defense have to respect that. And that's what I do against the Raiders. They're going to be an aggressive defense. They got those pass rushers that are going to try to get after him. Yeah, let him push up the pocket, push that defense where they're coming up. And then that's where you got to see some of those great throws down the field. And I can't remember who I was listening to, but they were sitting next to some 49ers fans and they were talking about Russell Wilson and they're like, this is what he does. Like you keep him contained most of the game. Then all of a sudden he has a couple really big plays because he escapes the pocket. And like I said, I'm hoping the Broncos can figure out some better ways to get him a little bit more on the move, get him some comfortable throws. And I think when you can do that, I think the Broncos offense can get going. The other big thing is the Raiders don't have a great defense. So Broncos should be able to run on them, get a little bit more rhythm going in this offense compared to the 49ers. I mean, I don't think the Broncos are going to play a better defense than the 49ers the rest of the season.
Too early to say for me. But because you also have to know that the 49ers team was without their probably third best defensive player in Eric Armstead, which I think makes a big difference up front there. But we'll see how it plays out. The Jags have been super hot and could be somebody else. But right now, 49ers are definitely up there. We got $100 coming in from EJ. My God, saying Carl's catalytic converter fund. God, that's super nice. Yeah, EJ.
Yeah,
thanks for you two for knocking it out of the park Tuesday nights. Yeah, so nice.
Thank you for knocking it out of the park right there. That just made my day. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's super nice, EJ. Really generous. Getting back to Naj's comment here about how do you beat the Raiders? This is not a good Raiders roster, folks. And you have Patrick Surtain that I think should be able to keep Devontae Adams hopefully somewhat on lock because he's been incredible despite what PFF has been saying out there every single game, and it should be healthier next week as well. So that should be great. It's going to sound boring and simple, but the Broncos are a more talented team. How do you lose games as a more talented team? You make costly mistakes. You need to not make those plays where you're giving the Raiders a chance. The penalties, the turnovers, the bad special teams where the field's flipped, like a shank like that, or running into the back of the end zone on a touchback when it should have been down at the 5. Those small mistakes are how you lose to a team like the Raiders. Now, the Raiders are going to be desperate, but I saw somebody else in here making the comment that the Raiders are a trap game. If anybody in Dove Valley is overlooking the loss, here it is, Manuel saying trap game with the Raiders for sure. If anybody in Dove Valley is overlooking the Raiders, where the Broncos have not beaten the Raiders on the road since 2015, they should be kicked in the shin repeatedly by Corliss Waitman or somebody, because that's just silly. This is your division rival. You have a chance to put a knife in the heart. Carl, you asked me earlier how many 0-4 teams have made the playoffs in NFL history. One. The 1992 Chargers. Now, that math changes a bit now that there's an extra playoff seed. But either way, you got a chance to put a knife in the heart of your biggest rival.
Right.
You better go in there and not overlook the Raiders.
Well, the other thing is, I think you posted this on Twitter. Broncos have not won a game in Vegas or Oakland, whatever you want to call it, since like 2015. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. So
the last Peyton Manning game, the last Peyton Manning season.
Yeah. So it's that showing. Broncos have had their struggles against the Raiders. Yeah. And they need to get that monkey off their back. I know everybody's wanting to focus on the Chiefs and getting that kind of win, but I think the Raiders are they're like that second level right below that. So, and we got Garth coming in as well saying Carl's catalytic fund after EJ dropped a super chat bomb. Wow. Thank you both. I just really appreciate that. Like I said, you guys just bring up my mood every single time, after those tough times. I appreciate that from every single one of you.
Yeah. And we got our friend David Carmelo coming in here. David, I'm still waiting for my bet. We had a little bet on the Broncos record here coming in, but Russell Wilson isn't washed or finished or being a good quarterback, but he finished being the Russell Wilson we knew from his uber athletic days. I don't know if Russell Wilson was ever like truly uber athletic. He was a good athlete for the position, big built, but I definitely think that he's going to have to evolve. But we saw it especially the drives late in the game where the Broncos really needed it. Russell Wilson made some plays with his legs, extended things, and whatnot. Now we need to strike the balance of not taking these dumb sacks, especially ones where you're taking points off the board by getting sacked and empty sets. You can't have that in a close game, especially with the defense the way it's playing. But he still has, some magician in him. It's just he's going to have to evolve a little bit, and that's true for every quarterback reaching this age.
Yeah, to me, he was Patrick Mahomes before there was Patrick Mahomes. Just making a play out of nothing. That guy that can just run around, make guys miss that shouldn't be making guys miss. Like you don't see that great athlete per se, like the Lamar Jacksons of the world, but they just do enough to escape. And then they are still looking down the field for that big play. And so like I said, that fourth quarter, you got to see a little bit of that magic. You got to see that he still has some of that in him. And
Yeah.
so I'm not too worried about it. Like I said, I almost want the Broncos to turn them a little bit more loose, have a little bit more freedom in this offense and say, hey, we're struggling right now. The plays that we're calling within the system, it's not quite working yet.
Yeah.
Run around, go make a few plays for us. We know we're going to take a few sacks because of that, but we feel like this would probably be a better case for our offense. I understand it opens them up to more hits, but you're not going to win a lot of games scoring 11 points. So you got to change up something here.
Yeah, I'm honestly going to push back a little bit. First, Chase Wellner coming in $2. I hope they communicate better being on the road. They better. Luckily, I think that Las Vegas is going to be very orange this week with the Raiders already being 0-3. Dysfunction there already with ownership and Josh McDaniels. Yeah, I could see a lot of orange in the stands there. I mean, it's a destination beyond, just the cool stadium there in Las Vegas. So hopefully Broncos country shows out there, and I don't think communication is going to be as much of an issue this road game. Anyway, pushing back on this, something I noticed, and I have to go back and do the data on this, but Broncos, especially in week 3, had to have the average yards to go on third down 9+. And a lot of that was because of the sacks and whatnot that Russell Wilson was taking when he needs to be getting rid of the football in a timely manner. Now, some of it could be there's nobody open because Jerry Judy's injured and struggling, and the 49ers are passing off routes like incredibly. DeMarco Ryan is one of the best defensive coordinators in football, should be a head coach probably next year, given how good he's been the last couple of years. But staying on time, I think, is as important right now as unleashing Russell Wilson, I think, because right now, if it's 3rd and 9 or plus on so many plays, you really lose the ability to attack down the field, get some of those splash plays where they're playing more of the line of scrimmage. It's especially true when you're not getting those plays on first down, like it's 2nd and 2. That's when you're looking for those play action deep shots because you have a kill play there. And I feel like everything has been freaking a grind so far. So I do want the explosive plays, but the negative plays right now are a big issue for me on this offense in this week 3 game.
Yeah. The week 3 game for sure, because a few of them obviously took them out of field goal range.
Yeah.
I mean, you're taking points off the board. Cortland Sutton dropping that pass that would have got him into field goal range. Those kind of things. Really, 11 points was the least amount of points the team could score this week. The missed field goal, obviously getting kicked out of field goal range, the safety instead of the touchdown, because it's amazing sometimes your stupidity actually bails you out, like Jimmy G stepping on the back line instead of throwing the interception. So, I agree. I think you got to pick your times to do it. Obviously, with Russell Wilson, you're not doing it all the time. You're not saying, hey, just keep running around every single play that we're trying to throw the ball. And he's got to work on getting through his reads a little bit quicker. There's a couple times I really noticed he just zones in on one guy and he just keeps holding it, waiting for that guy to get open, and it doesn't happen. And then he gets sacked. Sometimes you just got to get off those reads and get moving. And we got Dave Glassman coming in saying more stars because I forgot to mention Scott. There you go. Also, Carl, I know I shouldn't bet on the Broncos to win again. If I do, how much will we win by, and what's your guess on the over-under? Well, for this week, again, because of where the offense is at, I'm taking the under on pretty much any Broncos game until they prove otherwise. That's just kind of the place I'm at with the team. I think the Broncos stand a really good chance just because Raiders look very dysfunctional right now. You're starting to see some of these guys turn on each other a little bit. McDaniels, I've just never believed in that guy to actually be able to lead a team. Here in Denver, every player hated that guy. Like, I don't think there's a single guy on the team that was like, oh, yeah, that Josh McDaniels. Now, they said he was smart beyond belief. They all talked about that, but they all pretty much said we hated this guy. And I just don't think that kind of personality just changes even after a few years. Like, it's still going to be there at different times. And so I think just right now, they're just not a team that's united. And when you can get a team that's in that kind of mode, I think you got a good chance to go in there and really, I think the Broncos are actually underdogs right now for that game.
Get in on that. And if you guys want to get in on that, make sure you're checking out my bookie. There's some great matchups this week. The ones that intrigue me, obviously, Broncos at Raiders. Broncos need to get that road Raider monkey off their back that they haven't had since Peyton Manning wore the orange and blue. But the Jaguars versus Eagles, man, what a game. Or how about the quarterback matchup that's going to be the Bills versus the Ravens? You're not going to want to miss out on any of the games this week and make them a little bit more spicy over on my bookie. My bookie has super contests, survivor pools, and a double deposit bonus that gives you everything you need to secure the bag. Getting started is simple. Sign up today and use our promo code Wilson22, and you'll double your first deposit instantly. Again, that's promo code Wilson22 to double your deposit up to $1,000 with MyBookie. This isn't your grandfather's bookie. This is MyBookie. Put your money where your mouth is and get rewarded for it. Begin your winning season today exclusively at MyBookie by using our code Wilson22. Let's keep it going here. DA Cash coming in with an interesting question. Done with Judy. What's his trade value? This would be very much selling low on Judy, and I'm harsh on Judy because you see, all these other first round wide receivers. I'm helping cover the Falcons with Scott over there. I see Drake London absolutely killing it. Garrett Wilson doing well. Chris Olave, draft picks from last draft cycle. I mean, Jalen Waddle's been incredible. Devonta Smith out there. I mean, almost all these first round rookie draft picks have been awesome. Judy's been one of the least productive ones out of the last 3 drafts. Now, not totally his fault. High ankle sprain, terrible quarterback play, injured again right now. Again, not totally his fault, but there's gets to a point where it's like, okay, time to really step up. Or is he just, not a incredible number 1 wide receiver caliber player, which is possible. I mean, even as a number 2, I'm okay with that, given how many good wide receivers you want to run in today's NFL. What's his trade value? I think you could get a 3rd round pick for him.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a team's going to think they can do something with him. They still have that film from when he was coming out as a rookie. So I expect that he'd still get a decent pick, but he's more valuable to the Broncos right now because they need wide receivers. And you just kind of hope that he can really get on the same page with Russell Wilson and start turning into something. But we got RD coming in saying, was Pookie hurt? Melvin fumbled and seemed to get more playing time. Yeah, I noticed that too. It was amazing how many times Melvin Gordon just seemed to get on the field, and I'm like, okay, he fumbled. No way he's going in on this next drive. Boom, there's number 25 again. They just have this trust in him, and I understand. Like, he's the veteran. He sees holes a little bit better than Pookie right now. He's got great pass protection, those kind of things. He's got great hands. So I think that was part of it, was they just saw all these great pass rushers, and they're like, we need Melvin in there. He understands where the rush is coming from. But those fumbles, man, that's at some point, you got to sit there and say, dude, you're going to lose time. We're going to start putting in number 26 instead of you as the backup, because, he's at least pretty dynamic as well. I think he did pretty darn good in the preseason. And those turnovers, like you said, those are the great equalizer against a bad team.
Yep. 100%. I think the reason that we saw so much Melvin in this game is because the Broncos offensive line was getting beat up pretty good. And I think they trust Melvin more in picking up blitzes and working him in the pass protection scheme versus that of Javonte Williams right now, who in one-on-ones is a good blocker, but that doesn't always make it the processing, awareness side of things as well. And we got Paul coming in too. My goodness, Paul 50 saying, must beat Josh. This is for Nick, Carl, Scott. Oh, they always do amazing work. Paul, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming in, man. That's a big time.
Talk about someone that never fumbles right there, Paul. Thank you so much, Paul. Really appreciate it. Always good to see you in here. We got Cody W coming in saying, someone told Hackett to open up the playbook and smoke this Raiders team, get revenge game for us having to deal with McDaniels. I always I'm the optimist, always have been an optimist. I always kind of view it as, hey, the dark days of McDaniels led to the good days of Peyton Manning. The team failed enough that they got Von Miller. That also is a big part of that. So, sometimes being bad makes you turn into good.
Yeah. I mean, look at the Jags right now. Trevor Lawrence and Trevon Walker. Talk about a really good number 1 and number 1 pick. Garth Knight also coming in saying Carl nailed it with Mahomes, and the baseball history of Russ and Mahomes translate to the NFL, especially for infielders like Russ. Yep. Makes a lot of sense. The arm slots, the arm angles, off platform, the ad lib ability, all adds up. Mahomes has a stronger arm and a little bit more flexibility, I would say, in his ability to hit off platform. I think Russell Wilson's a little bit more muscle bound, if that makes sense. There's just more elasticity, I guess, is the way that I see it with Mahomes, but very good. And if that's just how you guys play quarterback going forward, it is funny, though, to watch some college kids play that, and they just make some of the stupidest throws you ever seen because they're just trying to do too much and play outside of mechanics. You still need to have the mechanical baseline, and then, that's magic can happen if you build off of that. Gary Leeds Palmer coming in saying, just acknowledging the great generosity of EJ. Yeah, absolutely. And Paul as well, but Gary's talking about EJ here. Always a great show, guys. Go Broncos and let's ride. Thank you, Gary, so much. We appreciate you. And Quentin Carson coming in with the support as well over on Facebook. We appreciate you, Quentin. you got any comments for us, make sure you hit us up. We'll consider this the super chat for your comment here. So let's get into it. The topic here at hand. I saw that Chad wanted us to talk about the Eli Manning quip here, saying that on Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, saying that the Broncos should have paid Corliss Waitman that $250 million contract instead of Russell Wilson. What do you make of this, Carl? Any thoughts on this comment?
I mean,
Does that mean anything?
I get it. You pay that guy, you kind of expect immediate results. And unfortunately, it hasn't obviously shown up on the field. I mean, there's been some positives. First couple games, the team actually moved the ball pretty well. They just didn't get into the end zone. This is the first game that they really didn't move the ball, at least. And run game's been decent for the most part. They've been averaging close to about like 4.8 yards per carry between the top two running backs. So that's not too bad. And just like I said, there's a lot of things that got to get cleaned up. Russell Wilson, yes, he's got to get better. There's some throws that were easy throws. You had a first down to Albert Okwuegbunam. You dropped, I think it was about 2 yards short on that throw. It was supposed to be an easy, about 5-yard completion, missed it. There's another one to, I think it was Cortland Sutton on the sideline. Would have been an easy first down, overthrew him. So some of those kind of things that you just didn't expect coming into the season would be a problem for Russell Wilson. They've been a problem. Like I never really worried about accuracy with him. And now all of a sudden accuracy issues are showing up for him. So I don't know. I think he doesn't look comfortable at all. And I don't know if they just need to simplify things and say, hey, let's get 20 great plays that we just master as a team. And then we're going to add 5 plays a week and just kind of build on that for the season. Maybe that's what they need to do because everybody does not seem on the same page at all right now.
Yeah, and I know that for me, and I said it coming into the season, I thought it was always going to take a little bit of time for the passing game to get going. That was even before Tim Patrick was injured and KJ Hamler had continued to have setbacks and Jerry Jeudy got hurt. Greg Dulcich out for, right now I might as well just say Greg Dulcich out for the year. We're going to see anything from him as a first round tight end. I mean, Trey McBride has been healthy and he's played like one offensive snap so far this season or something like that. And second round pick. So it takes time for the tight end, I guess is my point I'm getting to here. But the offense was always going to take time, the passing game specifically. Run game needs to step up. Offensive line and the run game needs to step up. So that ESPN has the Broncos run blocking rate pretty high. I don't know where that's coming from what I've seen from the game so far. I think Garrett Bowles and Cam Fleming have been pretty good in the run game, but the interior offensive line has been not good at all. And I think they're mostly running against lighter boxes as well. And they're still not getting the push because teams are trying to play, cover 2, cover 4 against Russell Wilson. But, it's been, I think the run game so far, that's one that needs to step up. I think they're bottom 6 in EPA per rush attempt so far this season as well, despite having, good, talented running backs, just not doing enough right now. And I talked about it earlier. The Broncos pass game definitely at fault here for a lot of 3rd and long situations where it makes it that much harder, especially, you don't always just have to go to the sticks. Sometimes the 3rd and 3, the team's playing the sticks and you hit a 60-yard play. This is a shot. If you see this coverage, take it. But that hasn't been the case. Broncos have been long. And part of that is because they're not getting much push up front on those plays. So want to see the run game specifically get better, get more dominant. Talk about a get right game. The Raiders run defense has been atrocious so far this season. So the whole defense has been bad for the Raiders, except for Max Crosby. But we'll see. I think the run games have been the biggest disappointment for me, specifically across the offensive line.
Yeah. I'm really hoping Quinn Miners gets back soon because, man, and the few snaps he did have, he was dominant. Mm-hmm. He was getting pushed. He was getting, that right side was just opening up with him and Fleming. Those guys were just driving guys like crazy. And so getting him back, if he's 100%, that could really change up how that run game goes. Right now, it just seems like the Broncos have to run to the left. Reisner, he's not great, but he's better than Glasgow on the other side doing run blocking. And Bowles, like you said, he's been pretty good so far this year. Not great, but pretty good. I think his pass protection has actually been really pretty spot on. Had a couple holding calls this last game that I think a lot of people I remember in the stands, bunch of Bronco fans. Oh, get rid of this guy. He holds every time. I'm like, have you been watching this guy? Like, he's been pretty dominant as a pass protector. Yeah, he does hold every once in a while, but I'd rather him hold than our quarterback take a huge hit because he just let his guy go. That's just kind of my thought on that. And we got EJ coming back again. EJ, Man, you are just making my night. Saying Broncos shouldn't be overconfident. Derek Carr has dink and dunked the Raiders to victories for a while, hoping Ejiro Evero doesn't play too passive. Yeah, this is, I think my most frustrating game I remember watching of the Broncos was, I think it was Josh Jacobs' rookie season, where he was actually pretty dominant, and they had that dominant offensive line, and they just ran it every play. And it was like 5 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards every single time because they just got such great push, and the Broncos couldn't stop it. It's just like, our guys are too small. Our guys can't hold up. And I feel better about that now. One, because Raiders offensive line is not where it was. Josh Jacobs is not where he was. And the Broncos run defense is in a much better place than it was a few years ago. So I do feel good about that. But you're right. Derek Carr, he can dink and dunk. And the Broncos have been playing a lot of off coverage this year. They've kind of almost said, we'll give up a couple of these short passes, because we don't want to get beat over the top. But this might be the week. Got to play a little bit more press coverage.
Yeah, definitely possible. We'll see how that plays out. Not just looking at some of the run game stats here. Broncos, you talk about, where's the issue right now for the Broncos on the offensive line? The inside zone, they actually have negative EPA per play running it, and it's been their most used concept so far this season. So interior offensive line not getting it done. I don't know if I kind of talked about it in the week, the show Monday, but there was a play where Garrett Bowles almost gets taken out because Lloyd Cushenberry is beat so badly and wraps under his legs, and Garrett Bowles looked pretty pissed about that.
Yeah.
Clayton Huron coming in saying maybe another no-fly zone the way we're playing right now. Man, maybe. They look really good right now. I'm not ready to say the no-fly zone because that's arguably one of the best defenses of all time. Let's correct a big issue with that no-fly zone, though, that we had that season, and have a complementary offense on the other side. Because could you even imagine how good that defense would have been if the Broncos didn't lead? I think they led the NFL in offensive turnovers that season. Peyton Manning definitely led it in interceptions. So let's protect the football, flip the field, and really give that defense a chance to pin their ears back, which haven't really seen so far this season. A couple games late, and then when the Broncos have had a lead, the pass rushers have been able to pin their ears back. But it'd be great to have one where Broncos are up 10 points in the third quarter, and you have 6 drives where you can just, we're playing the pass. That would be amazing to watch.
Yeah, Randy Gregory, 20 sacks at that point. That guy, he has been so much fun.
Yeah. Yes, he has. And I just lost Carl's video here. I'm not sure what's going on there. Scott can let me know. But Garth Knight coming in here saying, I'm acknowledging Gary Leeds Palmer. You're back, Carl.
Yeah.
I'm acknowledging Gary Leeds Palmer, undefeated record in attending Broncos games. Not sure if Carl is also undefeated.
I have seen one loss, and it was the Patriots a few years ago. Brady came in, one of his, I think it was his last season with the Patriots, and they dominated the Broncos. So unfortunately, I have seen a loss before, but that's the only one. I've got to see John Elway make a fourth quarter comeback before, sitting in the south stands of the old stadium. That I can't. I was trying to decide if this experience, just because of the meet and greet and just getting to see this kind of game play out, or the fourth quarter comeback by John Elway, which one was a better experience for me? I'm not sure. It's really tough to make that decision, but I love both of them, and thankfully back on the winning side now.
Yeah. Well, that must be nice. That's all I got to say about that. EJ coming back in. God bless. Goodness. Saying I'm probably biased. Didn't like the Judy pick at the time but all not TikTok route running receivers seem to be doing well. Coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. I can't really think. I don't even know. I don't have TikTok, so I don't even know what's going on there. My Instagram reels, I guess I do have TikTok that I downloaded when I had the sick bug, and I used it like once. But other than that, go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, essentially what he's saying is you like to do all that fancy footwork and kind of show off how quick your feet can move, and you do a lot of dancing, but you're not actually moving anywhere. It's like that person that's like running in place, trying to build up that energy to actually take off running. Yeah. But by the time you actually get to move, you could have already been there, kind of thing. And so there are a lot of times that Judy does that, where he's dancing for about a second and a half, and you're kind of going, okay, play's already going, dude. You got to get moving. And he's just not quite doing that. And I didn't mind the Jerry Judy pick. We got the RAS score up here, 6.77 for him. That's a decent score. It's not like elite athlete score that you would kind of hope for if you're taking a guy in the first round. And I mean, you and I've talked about it. I'm not big on taking wide receiver first round. unless they're just that talent that you're just like, we can't pass on this. The Calvin Johnsons of the world that you're like, oh my gosh, this guy is just the biggest athlete ever. I think there's a lot of guys you can find in those second, third rounds. Cortland Sutton, best receiver on the team, looking great, looking like a Pro Bowl wide receiver, second round pick. That's where I'm looking usually at that kind of position. So Jerry Jeudy, he wasn't my top wide receiver in that draft. I think he was number 3 or 4 on my list. I had CeeDee Lamb at the top, and he's been up and down too. So I can't say that I was right in wanting him over Jerry Jeudy at this point. I think he's better than Jerry Jeudy, but he has his drop issues. And but just that idea of Cortland Sutton on one side, CeeDee Lamb on the other, those two big boys, especially right now playing with Russell Wilson, getting him to throw it up to him. Would have loved to have seen that. But I'm still hopeful for Jerry Jeudy. I think there's still time for him to get some things right. His game is so based on timing and just building that kind of chemistry with your quarterback. And that was going to take time. And so I think later on in the season, you're going to really see that pay off for the Broncos.
Yeah, no, and still plenty of time for Jeudy to get it right. He's a talented receiver and dealing with an injury already, so let's not bury the guy. But this is, I think, a great week for him. I think Cortland Sutton's, 5th right now in the NFL in receiving yards. Now, part of that is because the other weapons haven't really been stepping up, pass catchers specifically. But looking at this Raiders team, I mean, Rock Ya-Sin, and then it's question marks at the cornerback position. Amick Robertson, I remember him from Louisiana Tech. Nate Hobbs was really good last year in that cover 3 scheme, but now they got Patrick Graham, who plays much more of a 2 deep safety shell kind of thing there. So this really seems like a game where, this could be a get right Jeudy game. And you see the Broncos really make a conscious effort early on to get Jerry Jeudy going, get the ball to him in space and let him do some things. Definitely want to look out for him this weekend. It'd be great if Jeudy could start playing out here, because right now it feels like Cortland Sutton is carrying 80% of the pass catching load in this offense, and that's not sustainable.
Right. It's amazing how many times he's getting thrown to in that double coverage, just because, he's the one guy that Russ trusts right now to go make a play. And anytime he sees him in single coverage, oh my gosh, Russ is like, all right, yep, that's where I'm going every single time when he's in single coverage. It doesn't matter. And which, you should. Yep. I'm glad that he makes those throws. You see a lot of the back shoulder things, and that's what Cortland Sutton does great at. But you're right. We got to get somebody else going. I keep saying, give Virgil a chance. Maybe a couple plays, that deep shot. I still would love to see Montreal Washington get a couple shots in this offense. Design a couple plays to really play to his playmaking ability. Get him in space, get him the ball in his hand, go see what he can do. Just a few things like that I'd really love to see the Broncos just really game plan for. They haven't been able to do that quite yet.
Yeah, 100%. Clayton Huron saying, smash that like button, guys. Let's ride. Evening, guys. Just got home from work, eating, and top off my night with you guys. All right.
Ooh, yeah.
Game ball, 1 person on offense, 1 on defense, and 1 on special teams. I did game balls on Monday morning's show, but I'll just kind of lean into this a little bit. The offense is hard. I think there's only 1 person that deserves a game ball in this one. You know what? I'll give you the easy one. We're kind of just talking about it, but game ball for this. Yeah, Cortland Sutton, that's the obvious one. I'll give a game ball to Kendall Hinton as well, making that big play there at the end. Russell Wilson breaks pocket with Kendall Hinton, comes back, and you needed that play. He delivered. So really the only one who deserves it is Cortland Sutton, in my opinion. Maybe you can make an argument for Garrett Bowles, but we're like bottom of the barrel there on that one, unfortunately. Defense, I'm going to go with Josie Jewell, man. He was everywhere in that game. I think the Broncos don't win that game without him. It's kind of funny to me that, Jonas Griffith so far had been kind of and then Josie Jewell's there, and all of a sudden Jonas Griffith is out there making plays and playing fast, looks uninhibited. I don't think that's by accident. So Jewell with the overall like a synergistic effect on the entire defense, even with Simmons out there. Special teams, the easy one is the punter. I'm going to give it to Alex Singleton. Talking about the linebacker there, Jewell coming in, pushing Singleton down into that first linebacker off the bench. Had a hell of a game. Aaron Patrick also had a good one. Some really good special teams played there this week, which made me extremely happy because I was harsh on the Broncos special teams play against Houston.
Yeah. Aaron Patrick was going to be my guy.
Oh, Cole Sweetman for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved all those guys. The coverage units, man, it is night and day from what they were last year. Last they had I'm talking about like last year, they had no lane discipline.
Oh, yeah.
This year, at least you're seeing some lane discipline. You're not seeing these big returns get any kind of momentum going. These guys are chasing. They're just on fire, loving it. And then Waitman having the game of his life when the Broncos absolutely needed it. Yeah, thank you, David. That's first couple of weeks, he wasn't great. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. He's kind of all over the place. He's very inconsistent with his punts. But like I said, when they absolutely needed a game for him to go out there and dominate, he did it. And that's great to see for the Broncos. So defense, Mike Purcell, game of his life. I mean, we were talking before the season, maybe we should be cutting this guy, saving a little bit of money. You can always go find another nose tackle. Man, he proved his worth in this game. I think he was maybe the best defensive lineman the Broncos had in this one, even over Draymond Jones, even over DJ Jones, who went down with injury. Hopefully he'll be ready to go this week. But Purcell stepping up, got the sack, I guess you could say, on the safety. Run defense. Man, that guy was doing great, not only holding his spot, but then throwing off his blocker to go make the actual play. Like, you don't see, like, usually you tell those guys, hey, take on the blocks, let the linebackers come down and make the play. No, he was in there he was doing it all. So great to see from him. Hopefully he can build on that and continue, because the Broncos need him to really step up.
Yeah, they really do need him to step up. And David coming in saying the Raiders are what Denver used to be. Raiders have big glaring issues at head coach. And also, we're talking about special teams last year. You know who the Raiders special teams coach is, right, Carl?
Is it the Broncos' old one?
It's Tom McMahon.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you. Yep. Oh, the football gods have blessed the Broncos once again. Thank you. Yeah, we got EJ being the man, the myth, the legend tonight. Thank you so much. Saying big thanks to the legend GLP, and all that proves is Eli is a terrible GM. If he has to pay a punter $250 million to play, he must be an awful GM. Got to laugh at takes like those. Yeah, I mean, all those guys, of course, they got to get the exaggeration out there, and those Mannings, they're always trying to be funny. But you kind of think about some of those Giants teams. They needed some pretty good punters because Eli was all over the board. He'd have these outstanding games and then just lay an egg. And then all of a sudden, most years, they don't even make the playoffs. And then all of a sudden they make the playoffs and he turns into his brother kind of thing. And all of a sudden becomes a great quarterback. So it's kind of always a weird thing with him of how that worked out. Eli, I'm not going to read too much into what he said. It was kind of a tongue-in-cheek, trying to be funny kind of thing.
It was a quip.
Yeah, it was. And I'm sure trying to get his brother a little bit riled up since he is a Broncos fan. And I think he's a Russ fan too. Yeah, I think both those guys actually are Russ fans. I think they're hoping he turns it around. But right now, Russ deserves a little bit of criticism for how he's played for 3 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this is why we want to have a bigger sample size. First 3 weeks, the important thing right now is the Broncos are relatively healthy. Saw the injury report going into the week 2 matchup was insane, but then you look at the Chargers and it's like, okay, could be worse.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And the Broncos have survived, and they're going to have to be able to survive these next 3 games as well. And I want to wait a full 8. I mean, during the game, whatever, it's going to be reactionary. That's just kind of the fun of being in the moment there. But then you step back. What's the larger sample size say? And I want to wait, 6 to 8 weeks really before we get a good idea of what this team is. Because then you see a high enough variance of defenses. You kind of figuring things out, tweaking things out. By week 8, you should know what a lot of these teams are in the league. And as they say, the cream will rise to the crop. But very pedestrian, right now it seems pedestrian middle of the pack teams the Broncos have coming up right now, with the maybe worse than that with the Raiders, then the Colts on Thursday Night Football, and then the Chargers, who are exceedingly injured. I'm going to be curious to see if they're going to sit Justin Herbert with the injuries they have going on now and punting on the season. Cause man, you don't want to wreck that kid, but I don't know, man. It's rough out there,
especially with his left tackle gone.
Yeah.
That blindside protection when his ribs are wide open. Oh man, that's just asking for disaster and for his season to be ended. So I feel for the kid, set up to have this great season, then gets this kind of injury, sees a lot of top players go down, in some ways. I mean, that's just the way of the NFL. Sometimes the team catches a break, and sometimes they see that hope go down the drain real quick. So we'll have to see what they'll be like when we get to that kind of point. But Chargers were destroyed Sunday. Part of me is going, is it because the Jaguars are that real, or because the Chargers were just not ready for that game. Justin Herbert not looking like his usual self. I don't know. I mean, I was watching a little clip the other day or earlier today. It was about the Broncos being in first place in the AFC West, and all the other teams are like, "Oh, don't stop talking. It's only 3 games in. You're not scoring a lot of points." And one of them goes, "Well, do you think the Broncos will win the Super Bowl?" And somebody goes, "Well, when hell freezes over." And they go, "Well, the Jaguars are good." And the other people go, "Ah, crap. Hell did freeze over." And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just kind of that's the thing of the NFL. Things can change from one year to the next.
Yeah.
Teams that were terrible all of a sudden become great. Like I said, you get yourself a quarterback, get yourself a competent coach, boom, all of a sudden you become something.
Yeah. 100%. ID Williams, 1972, coming in saying, "Hey guys, mile high salute. Good to see you over on Twitch. We appreciate you." And seeing Nick D saying Kendall Hinton's a joke, terrible take. And Hinton had 1 target and 1 catch. Honestly, it is a terrible take, but that's because we were picking the very end of the football game. You know, you have the scrawny me kid out there that's we got to take Nick. Ugh, okay, I guess we have to. But that's what you're picking from the offense. I mean, if Melvin Gordon didn't fumble the ball twice, maybe I'd give it to him for the 1 touchdown. Hey, we were 1 for 1 in the red zone in this game, but the offense was that bad that I don't even know where else to go.
Yeah.
I can't give it to Bowles, who had 2 sacks. Albert Okwuegbunam's bad. I mean, who am I picking on offense? I don't know. They're all offensive to me outside of Cortland Sutton in this last game, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It really is hard to give anybody else props because they wouldn't deserve it.
How about I give Russell Wilson props for diving on that football when all the 49ers were on it, and if he doesn't pick that up, it's an easy scoop and score for a touchdown for the 49ers. I mean, that's the type of stuff that we're trying to twist here with the offense in this game, and credit to the 49ers.
I mean, you think about the Super Bowl when Cam Newton wasn't willing to dive on the football. At least we have a quarterback that's willing to put himself out there to make the play. That sometimes it's those kind of plays that, like I said, they save a game. Mm-hmm. Those things add up to a victory. Without it, Broncos aren't winning this game.
Yeah, 100%. And giving it to Cortland Sutton, I just thought it'd be boring because he's the obvious one. So we each had to give one there. But it's unfortunate. So this is going to be a get right game here. And I saw Dave Glassman earlier saying we need to get Carl's prediction. He just has a feeling. So I think he's riding a hot hand here with Carl. Do you have any thoughts on this Raiders game? I think is this a game the Broncos finally break 20 points this season?
So I've been predicting each week a little bit more points for the Broncos, thinking that they're going to get right. And I even had this one where the Broncos would have an offensive explosion, and obviously that didn't happen. And so maybe I need to do the opposite, get that opposite juju going here, and say this is going to be a low scoring game again. Maybe Broncos score 17 points, Raiders score 14, Broncos come out with a victory. And like I said, maybe that'll get them that offensive explosion. Now all of a sudden they will put up that 27, 30 points, and they've been close. That's the thing is in those first couple games, just a couple fumbles that could have been touchdowns, a couple touchdown passes that ended up with the second foot not getting down. You know, those kind of things that just added up real quick. This is really that first game where I felt like the offense was just had nothing. You know, you could tell that they were really trying to do the short passing game a lot and hoping guys can make a guy miss and then get the big play down the field. You know, they tried a couple times over the top, obviously, but they were really hoping the aggressive defense coming up, get a guy at that first level, have him get a catch, and then be able to go make a play. But it wasn't happening. Guys were dropping it. Guys weren't making that first guy miss. You know, credit to the 49ers for a great tackling game. You know, they were wrapping up guys, making plays like that. But obviously Broncos, they need something to happen because it's like you said it earlier, it's been a grind. Like every single play, it just feels like they're having to give maximum effort just to even pick up a few yards.
It'll get better. Broncos, maybe like you said, that might be the toughest defense they face this season, definitely in the next few weeks. So things will get better here and it'll look a little bit better. And you've won a game where it was pretty ugly, but the turnover battle, winning it by 3, special teams doing it. Those are the things you have to do to win games when one unit doesn't do it. And those are the games the Broncos are losing over recent seasons, and they won this one. So maybe tides are turning here. Maybe belief of even having that quarterback in there makes a difference. Gary Leeds Palmer coming in saying, maybe I'm saying the obvious, but I really believe we can get the offensive line figured out. All of the problems will go away. It would definitely help alleviate a lot of the issues. The offensive line, I think, has been okay in pass protection. Probably give them a C in pass protection, C plus ish, and then a C minus D plus in run blocking so far this season. But mainly the interior offensive line we talked about earlier, the inside zone to have a negative 0.5 EPA or negative 0.5 EPA on inside zone runs is horrific because you don't have to do much to get a positive EPA on offense. But
Yeah.
not great right now.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, the interior offensive line, they're getting zero push. If anything, they're getting pushed back into the backfield and they're disrupting the entire run play. They're not giving even them an opportunity to do the cutback plays because you're cutting back into an offensive lineman. And man, Cushenberry, this was one of his worst games, I think, as a Bronco this last week. He was just getting pushed around like crazy. I mean, like I said, almost took out Bowles for the season by whiplashing his legs. And I mean, that would have been, there's a few injuries this year that if a certain player goes down, you really worry about how this season's going to go. Garrett Bowles would be one of those for me.
Yep. 100%. Well, guys, we're going to start to wrap it up on in here. If anybody has any last minute super chats or anything to get in on us, I guess the only matter of business here is the DJ Jones injury here, dealing with a concussion. We'll see. We'll find out more about that tomorrow. I think against the Raiders, if you wanted to be cautious with him, you might be safe doing that, especially with Mike Purcell coming off of a big game like that. I think that the Raiders offensive line is not very good, to put it nicely. So if you want to give DJ Jones a little bit of time to get ready for a game where you definitely will need him in a short week coming up against the Colts on Thursday night, this might be a chance to give him a little bit of a break just to play it conservative with him. But we'll see. That's the only injury news that I can think of right now. Other than that, Broncos staying healthy and hopefully getting better. So any final thoughts, Carl? You got the game? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and Dave Glassman, report to me how my bets go this week for you. I keep saying bet the under until they prove otherwise. It's just kind of where they're at as a team, and like I said, they've been that way for a few years. Broncos, I think, have been the team that have hit the under more than anybody else. It seems like so. And also, just wanted to give a big shout out again once again to EJ, man of the hour for sure, man of the week with how you came in. So we really appreciate that. Just seeing all of your guys' support, and again, just getting to meet all you guys, meet some of you guys this last weekend, just meant a lot to me. And putting those faces, getting those chances just to talk face to face, I can't wait for next year. That's all I got to say. Nick, you better be there, bud. We got to meet in person. The fact that I met Scott before I met you, that we've been together since 2017.
Yeah, it's
something
true.
like that. So yeah, we got to get you out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Scott said he's going to come out and climb a mountain with me sometime. So we'll see about that one as well. Pressure on you there, Carl. I don't think I'd take you on the hike that I did this weekend where I told my mom today after doing it, yeah, Mom, I didn't tell you when I left, but people have died doing this trail. She's like, they what? It's like, yeah, I didn't want you to worry, but we made it. That's probably why the fishing was so good. It's a pretty hard one to get to. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us today. You guys are awesome. Good to have you back, Carl. Broncos 2-1 right now, first place, have a game where they can drive a stake in the heart of the Raiders. And, the Broncos are laughing at the national media seems to be laughing at the Broncos offense right now, but 3 games in, still figuring it out, plenty of things to correct there. And you're not going to have a more get right defense. Oh, there's Scott for a second. You're not going to have a more get right defense than that of the Raiders this week. So looking forward to that game. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Make sure you're following Carl and I on Twitter. Carl is at Carl Dumler MHH. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, because he showed his face here for a second, make sure you're following Scott on here at Scout Kennedy because he wanted to show his face for a second there, rocking out there. He's not eating his yogurt anymore. Also, make sure you're following us at BFB_pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, join our Facebook communities at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says underneath there, make sure that you are subscribing, liking, and sharing our channel over on YouTube and sharing it on your socials, wherever, because there's plenty of Broncos country out there that don't just reside in Denver. That's what's so great about this social media and this platform is that Broncos country far and wide. Carl's in Kansas, Scott's in Atlanta. I'm in Lord knows where, Seattle. So definitely want to bring in those more people that are not always, there where they can listen to it on the radio. This is much more accessible for all you folks at home. So what's the rest of your night looking like, Carl? Getting a little bit more rest here, figuring out what to do with the catalytic converter, all that fun stuff?
It's pretty awesome now going through town. I stopped in Lyman, Colorado, and two old ladies were sitting in the car next to me, and I turned that thing on, and it sounds like a monster truck starting up. And the lady jumped and started screaming, and so that's what I'm starting to do a little more. Just drive around town, scare a few people. But I made the mistake. I scared a skunk today. I was driving by one and revved it up, and it sprayed my car. So adding injury to
insult to injury.
Yeah, insult to injury there. So now my car stinks and sounds like a monster truck. But now rest of the night, probably go tuck in the kids, tell them good night. And that's, I don't know, pretty much it. I think I'll just, like I said, maybe go to bed, get a little more rest this weekend. It was a long weekend. It was a good weekend, but a very long one. And definitely need to catch up on some sleep. What about you?
Gonna cook some dinner and figure out what's going on with the rest of my week. But we appreciate you guys. Make sure, again, following us on Twitter. Make sure you're always choosing kindness and compassion. But until next time, go Broncos.